the New York Giants versus Philadelphia Eagles. To me, look, Philadelphia, the injuries. Fulgham got in the end zone again, so we know the wide receivers kind of working there. Um, the Giants are having a tough time offensively. They played Washington. They played a little bit better offensively versus Washington and versus Dallas, more so against Dallas than Washington. They won thanks to Riverboat Ron going for 2 points. But, I don't mind that move, frankly. If you're Washington, if you're the Giants, why aren't you going for 2 at this point? But, I mean, it's just a tough draw for the Giants this year. I don't like the offense. Philadelphia, I think their offense, for some reason, they play a lot better in the fourth quarter than they do in quarters 1 through 3. But Philadelphia is looking better. I think they're about poised to go on a run. I do think it starts this week. Quick comments there, because for some reason I neglected to pull up my fantasy football projections here, David. Quick comments on the Eagles and Giants while I pull my numbers up.
Well, for one, we got to find out what's going on with Miles Sanders, because he went out with a knee injury. The initial speculation is that it's likely a meniscus, which means he could be out anywhere 3 to 4 weeks. This could be a season ender for Miles Sanders. So that's really my focus on this game, is how much do I commit to Boston Scott, right? Because going into the season, everybody across the board, we thought Boston Scott was a plug and play if Miles Sanders goes down. We looked at the receiving usage he got in the last 4 weeks last year, even when Miles Sanders was playing. And then Miles Sanders went out week 1 and we got a dud. So you kind of have to weigh both last season's production as well as week 1 for Boston Scott. And I think I'm going to land somewhere in the middle, where I don't want to overreact to week 1 being a bad game, because at this point, he is due for volume. Somebody's going to have to handle the running back touches in Philadelphia. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia, to me, they're just a team that needs to get healthy with receivers. And Miles Sanders, that's a big one. But I've always been kind of a fader on Miles Sanders, not because I don't think he's great. I think he's a great talent, but I just don't like the way Doug Peterson utilizes his running backs. I haven't since he's been there. A lot of times he's gone 4 deep. This year it's been kind of more Miles Sanders. I wouldn't call him necessarily a bell cow, but he's been getting the vast share of responsibility there. Boston Scott, look, I've seen him while Miles Sanders is out. I'm not impressed by anything he's done this year, so they're going to have to go long committee. I'm out on him based on, again, utilization of Peterson. This offense, look, I like what I'm seeing from Fulgham. I know you and I kind of disagree. You're out on aging wide receivers with injury issues, and I can't argue that and sound like I know what I'm talking about. But Alshon Jeffrey, when he comes back, and Deshaun Jackson, I don't think they're good individually, but as a unit, when all of them come back and the team has depth and they have somebody that Carson Wentz trusts in the red zone, and Fulgham's getting there. And I like Greg Ward too, but I just think this team is poised to get better. But really, I think the underrated injury for me, moving the conversation away from Miles Sanders, has been Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert filled up, even last year when they had the injury issues and they were just basically going 2 tight end. Goddard was getting the end zone more than Ertz was last year. Ertz, everybody thinks of him as the leader there, but Goddard goes down and this team went to crap. So I'm thinking that they need his physicality, both in the running game and the passing game. And I know he's going to come back in the next week or so. At least that's what the initial projections were. Maybe it'll be a little bit longer. I don't know. We'll see. But when Dallas Goedert comes back and they have a full complement of wide receivers, I think this team is poised to go on a run, but I do think they need Miles Sanders. So it's like every time they look like they're getting closer, the Eagles, it's like another injury happens on the offensive side of the ball, and it just makes the situation murky. I will say they did close the gap against the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. I picked them to cover and possibly upset the Ravens. That was looking like a really bad pick. And frankly, I don't really think that game was ever super in doubt. Like, I never really, but I didn't watch it live, to be honest with you. So I don't know, David, you were probably watching or at least keeping track. Did Philadelphia have a chance to go for 2 at the end of the game to tie, or was it a distant?
At the end of the game, I don't think they were. Actually, they might have been. They might have been within 2. I was watching the red zone.
I know
so
they ended up
the highlights.
Yeah, they ended up within 2. I believe they might have gotten a touchdown and tried to go for 2. I just don't know what happened. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're down by 2 and Doug Peterson elected then to kick the extra point because that guy doesn't know what he's doing with the 2-point conversion anyway. But look, back to the projections here. I don't like anything the Giants are doing. If you're going to play somebody, I would play Devonta Freeman just because you would think he'd be getting the most touches. It's nice that Slayton got into the end zone the last couple of weeks, but Philadelphia, I don't like the matchup for him. To me, it's all about Freeman and Slayton. Maybe some Ingram. This week, my computers like Ingram a little bit more. But I don't like the matchup. I don't. And Philadelphia, their defense is playing better. I already rostered Philadelphia's defense for this matchup. I did it prior to, the waiver wire because I need Baltimore's on bye week and they're my defense, so I needed somebody to stream. I already rostered Philadelphia for this matchup. Carson Wentz, fine but not great. Fulgham, I think you play him this week. I like the matchup, but if Jeffrey's back, I don't think he will be back because it's a short week and he hasn't looked like he's been close yet. But if he comes back, maybe I take him back. But really, that's it for me. And Miles Sanders, but he's not going to play. So I don't like a lot other than the defenses in this game, David.
Let me jump in there because there's something to talk about that I think is really needs to be mentioned, especially from a fantasy football focus, because you talked about how you went and grabbed the Eagles defense this past week, looking ahead to this week's matchup against the Giants. And I think a lot of people are finding themselves in that situation, especially in deeper leagues. Like I'm in a 14-team league. It's in the Pros with Joe's charity tournament. And we did the exact same thing. We picked up the Eagles defense this week, looking ahead to next week. And especially if you're in a league where defensive scoring is brutal, in which it is in this Pros versus Joe's tournament, and you're looking at the defensive scoring like 1 to 2 to 3 points in a bad matchup, you're seeing defenses go negative in bad matchups. Like if there's no defense out there good this week, start thinking about picking up next week's stream for the defense and just playing no defense this week. Like we did it last week. We had the Chargers defense who we were projecting to go against the Jets. It all got switched up because of the cancellations. But they were facing the Saints. So me and my Joe Derek Delgado, we picked up the Chargers defense saying, hey, we're going to play no defense this week, and then we'll have them next week against the Jets. So kind of get ahead, guys, if you need to, especially if you're in need of wins. Start thinking about just sacrificing the defense for a week and getting ahead, kind of being like a every other kind of defense week if you need to. It's an option. Quickly to talk about the Eagles. We talked about Fulgham last week, I believe. I believe in Travis Fulgham. He showed it again, especially in a tough matchup against Baltimore. That's 3 straight games with the touchdown. You mentioned the 2 guys coming back. It just kind of shows, again, my ageism. You mentioned about Jeffrey and Jackson, and I don't even care about those guys. The 2 guys who I would be concerned about would be who you mentioned, Dallas Goedert, and then Jalen Reagor is the other guy who I would be a little bit more concerned about taking targets. But right now, Travis Fulgham, he looks like the guy. Zach Ertz got hurt again. You talk about Dallas Goedert. If you need the tight end, guys, this is your last chance to go get Dallas Goedert on the cheap, to get him before his value comes back up as a healthy Goddard. He might be back this week. Short week against the Giants, so he might not play this week. This might be your last chance to go get Dallas Goedert. On the other side, the Giants, I don't love the matchup either, and I think Philadelphia, we are going to see a chance for some garbage points for Daniel Jones, so I don't think it's a terrible matchup. But again, we know Daniel Jones turns the ball over, fumbles the ball. This is a great matchup for that Philadelphia defense.
Let me hit you with a line here. We have the New York Giants +6, according to Bovada, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Who you got?
I'm gonna take the Giants and the points here. It's division matchup. No Sanders. I think it'll be at least a 1-score game.
I think this is the week that Philadelphia really breaks out. And again, I want to see what happens, but you got to figure Sanders isn't going to be there. I want to see a little bit of what happens with the other personnel. I'm inclined to take Philadelphia this week. Generally, as a rule of thumb, I stay away from Thursday games just because of the short prep week. You always get a lot of oddities. It's always a little bit lower scoring. Well, I shouldn't say always. And last year, it was a little bit higher scoring. And this year, the defenses are just bad across the board compared to what they're used to playing. Giants defense is good. So look, a 17-14 game wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to take the Eagles. I reserve the right before Thursday to change that pick depending on the health of the freaking Eagles, because they're just, my gosh, man. This team, there are a couple teams in the NFL that have just been snake bitten by injuries for like 2 years. The Colts with their wide receiving group, the Eagles with their receivers, And the 49ers, basically their entire team, has just been injured for 2 straight years.
And Chargers for about, seven straight years?
I don't know what it is. Like, maybe they need more calcium. Maybe they need more stretching. I don't know what it is, but it's like...
It's got to be the medical staff, right? They're puncturing Tyrod Taylor's lung. That should give us the answer there.
There you go.
It was a question. Now we got our answer.
And the Washington football team, they give everybody staph, as I remind everybody. Every time they have a team surgery, they get staph infection, and they almost lose their legs or their careers or whatever. Let's move it on to the next game.